Hi there, got a couple of people on. Just let me know if you can hear me. Can't see me yet. I'm just trying to sort out getting connected so I can see if I can see comments while I've got the camera up there. So let's have a look. Although I probably should have done it through the event really, but not to worry. Right. So let's turn that off. Cool. Right, just figure out whether you can all see me. I'll sit up here a bit far away, but it's probably better for some of you. So let me know who's on, and again just let me know that you can hear me and can see me okay, and then we'll get started. If someone could just drop a comment to say that we're okay as Bliss charges around. Blissy, oh, good girl. Hello sweetheart, good girl. So I've had to kind of Heath Robinson together a shelter for the camera and sound, so hopefully it might stay dry for now, and then we'll see what happens. So, well, hi Lane, thank you very much. So you can hear me. So as with all the lives that I do, obviously they get put up on YouTube, because I know people even admiring the garden setup. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's designed, obviously there's a few bits and pieces behind for it to be a bit of doggy heaven, bit of interest, and just means I can exercise the dogs without always having to take them out and go places. Plenty of stimulus, plenty of things that we do. So today we are going to look at rapid recalls. I was probably going to do this with Rebel, because I think I haven't had Rebel out for a bit. We've done a few with Bliss, but he was a bit poorly this morning, so just giving him a chance to unwind, just to see what that was. Nothing major, obviously, I hope. Just was not particularly well, so hopefully he'll be all right, but we'll keep an eye on him. So we're coming out with Bliss, and we're going to go through, rapid recalls. So we're going to do rapid recalls, Bliss. I'm going to give you some sort of tips on how you can start building up and getting the dog to really want to return to you quickly. I think that's the key. It's that speed of recall as well that we often don't always look at. And I'm going to try and talk about how we can improve criteria to get a better response and an improved rate. So again, going to try and keep it not too geeky, but there might be a few little elements just so you can understand the difference in what we do. But there are several elements to recall, because there's recall obviously in the back garden, in your home, in an area that they're fully comfortable with. And then there's recall, so like now, how she's mooching around and showing interest in other things like the hose pipe. Bliss! And can she switch off? So switching off, I'm just going to move that because Bliss keeps moving around, so just bear with me. Oops. So I'll come back and have a look at that. Hello, girlie. So where was I? Lost my train of thought then. So switching off from stimulus is different to recall. So you can have an absolutely fantastic recall, but the minute you add another dog or another person or a food source or a chase source, it can all go a bit wrong. So one of the elements I always talk about to go in conjunction with rapid recalls is disengagement, and that's a slightly different topic, and we're not probably going to get the chance to go through that, but I'll probably come back on and do another session for disengagement. And if anyone's interested, I've got a really sort of mini disengagement guide for, I think it's £12 on my shop. So, but that goes through getting a dog to switch off from certain stimuli and refocus on you. And then that done in conjunction with recall is really powerful. And I do apologise for anyone, even though it's not as warm today, my hay fever is still a little bit iffy. So if I sneeze or my breathing's a little bit too much, my sinuses are very closed at the moment. So please bear with me, and I apologise. So in terms of what we're going to sort of look at today is starting recall, what we do to kind of get recall going. Now I've got here a whistle. Oh, wow, okay. So you can use a whistle, you can have a command, you can have a specific behaviour. Bliss. I know, did the birds nearly get you then? Bliss, come here. Pop, pop. Good girl. Good girl. So anything that I use, whether I use command, whistle, toy, you can use whatever you want. You just replace what I'm using with what you want to use. And then from there, we're going to go into how you can then increase the speed of it. If you want more in depth, obviously, again, I do have a rapid recallers course as well, but this will give you a really, really good understanding of what we do. So, okay, first thing is to decide what you're going to do for your recall. Are you going to choose a word? Are you going to choose the whistle? Are you going to choose a command? So that could be a hand touch. So dog comes and touches your hand. So you can have a word to go along with that, but that means come there. I do use middle. I do use their name sometimes, but I sometimes use the whistle. So the very simple thing when we start building the whistle, I'll leave that phone there and come back to it. If anyone does have any questions as we go through, just fire them through and I will have a look. So the simple thing to start with is I just get Bliss in front of me. And I'm just very simply just going to go, and I'm going to blow 3 times on this. The reason for that is because if any of you are doing gun dog training, they tend to use 3 blows for return. 1 is for stop. So I'm going to blow 3 times and I'm going to deliver a treat. So it's a bit like clicker training where you would click, treat, treat. So I have her in front and pay her. Okay. And then I'm going to repeat. And repeat, and that's it. You know, it's that simple. You could in the morning just get her food bowl and do it by hand, but you can also have the food bowl. And even though I know I talk about sort of, I don't use, I mean, this is Bliss's, well, it's a little bit of her breakfast left over and some of her afternoon meal. I could put it in a bowl and I could blow the whistle 3 times, put the bowl down. So I could put a few pieces in it, put the bowl down. So all I'm doing is I'm pairing this with the sound. So I could do that again if I want to say middle. So obviously Bliss knows middle. I'll come on to that in a second, but then middle means this position. I do like middle, or I do like the hand touch as a recall because it's not ambiguous. It means one thing, it means be there. So calling their name can mean lots and lots of different things. So it doesn't always mean come to me, it can mean where are you, what you're up to. So for me, middle or hand touch can be a really useful, powerful tool. So if I move over and go middle, I think you can see that, probably should just double check. Yeah, you can see that, okay. So what we're doing there is we're just using a command to help with middle. And at the moment, we're just building that intrinsic value. Dropped a treat. The next thing we want, so if you've got any questions on that, just pop them in, but it is just that simple of pairing something with her returning. Also, you can also get into the habit of, if she naturally gravitates to you, paying her for just gravitating to you. Okay. I'll talk in a bit about sort of variable reward ratio, just so you get an understanding that if you reward a dog every time, then when you stop rewarding, you can actually lessen the recall because there's no reward. So we want to move away from food lures and things like that and actually add in praise, toys, different things all the time so that there is a robust recall and she will enjoy coming back for the enjoyment of coming back, not just because there's food. But we won't remove food totally. It becomes variable or as I like to go on to, particularly for recall, differential. And again, I'll explain that it's not as complicated as it sounds or anything like that. For anyone who knows what it is, it's quite straightforward. But it's more about making sure that she realises that she comes to me, if she doesn't get a treat that time, she knows she might get one next time, or she might get one next time. And because variable reward ratio is more resistant to extinction, and extinction is just a process where a behaviour is no longer being reinforced, it will just drop off and stop. So dogs are creatures of sort of reinforcement, so anything that gets reinforced will repeat, whether you like the reinforcement or not. That's how it kind of works with a dog. So once we've got her sort of understanding the whistle or coming back, so I'm just trying to find my handkerchief. We also want to start to look at orientation and proximity. So as you can see, I'm doing this very close at the moment. So I'm not out on a field, because that's the mistake that most people make. So here I just want proximity. So as you can see, she's valuing closeness to me, and I also want her to orient back to me. So I will do games like where I'll throw one piece of food out. Yes. Then as she returns, yes. As she returns, yes. Yes, good girl. Yes, good girl. Yes, good girl. Yes, good girl. So this is where she's starting to sort of return to me, and she's having to, I'm part of that reward mechanism. So she's going to go through the legs that way. So I'm just going to throw that over there, try and get her. See how she likes to go that side. So I'm going to try and tempt her this side. There you go. She likes to go the side that I'm leaning to, and I think that's because I did legs with her. So if I try and lean this way, see if I can get her back when she finds it. See that? She just loves that side. Bliss. So if I lean this way, she goes through that way. So I'm going to try and see if I can. Yes, good girl. So they're just orientation games about her gravitating back to me. So I'm not even applying the sort of stops or anything like that. Then I can look at the value in proximity. So the value is simply I'll throw one piece of food away. And then when she returns, yes, good girl. She can have 3 pieces here. So once she's done, so I throw one piece away, and you'll see I'm not throwing it far. Yes, but she's getting more paid at my feet. Make sure I've got no questions. And everyone's still with me and following. Okay. So again, one piece away. Yes. And then 3 or 4 down here. So you can see I'm just using her ordinary meal. For your dog, you might need to go a little bit more high value, but I'll talk to you again about high value in a little bit when we talk about others. So then I can start throwing further away. And she's got to use her nose as well and try and find it. Oh, she saw the knock then, and so she actually found it. Yes, what a good girl. But she always gets more to me. So then again, and you can see at this time, I'm not even using my word or the whistle. Okay, so at the moment, I'm just building that proximity. So once she's done that, I can just go Bliss. Throw one over there, let her go and get that. Yes, good girl. And then once she's comfortably returning and orienting to me like that, then I can start introducing my word or the whistle. So what I'll do here is I will throw one out, let her get it, wait for her to return, so wait for her to be on the way back. Yes, and then I add the whistle. Or let her finish. throw one out. Again, wait for her to be on her way back. Come here. Then I can have the come here. Or I could throw one out. I think that's fallen down the side. So I'm just going to throw another one that way, let her find that one. Middle. Then I can add middle. Okay, so I'm going through all these steps and then I can throw further away. So I could throw one over that way. Middle. Good girl. Okay, so now I've started adding the word. So, and this is still low level. So there is a way that you can do it at the park, and I'll give you a brief discussion on that. But at the moment, you need to build this in your living room, in your house, back garden, on the front. And then you can also do it here with a long line to get a use to the long line, so that when you do go out to the park, you can practice it with a long line on, so you've got a bit of control. But I will sort of talk to you about a way that you can potentially do it by just letting your dog off the lead in a park. It's not the way I would prefer, but sometimes it's a nice bit to know that if you ever get this situation that you can use it as a strategy. So that's now building that proximity, so she knows she's getting paid here. Then I'm going to move off. Now she does it really well. I can just go throw one out, and even after probably the first session, I can start removing the food, and I could even, bring in the toy as the reward rather than the food. So I'm going to let her find it. Wait for her to start returning to me wherever she's. Yes, good girl, Blissy. Get it, get it, get it, get it. And then we can have play instead of food. Okay, so we don't all, I like to move away from food for everything. So I need to have a mixture of rewards. So good girl, out. Good girl. So again, throw one out. Let her go get it. Yes, good girl. Good girlie, good girlie, good girlie. And then I can throw another one. Yes, good girl. So now I can just give her a fuss. Now she knows I've got the food in my hand here, but I can just give her a fuss. So I can mix up all between the reward mechanisms. Okay, is everyone with me so far? I hope that's making a bit of sense. So let's move on to a little bit more of sort of advanced how we can move that on. So then you've just got to practice it. Now I said I would talk to you about if you're ever out in a park and you let your dog off lead and they just go off and start mooching about or even playing with other dogs, and then you're calling them and they just won't come back. Believe it or not, one of the things to do, as long as they're not doing anything too horrible, leave them. Go and sit down on a bench. So I would just go and sit, leave the dog sort of running about. And this was a method that I got reminded about with, I did the serious puppy training with Dr. Ian Dunbar and a couple of others, science-based training with feeling. There was a webinar the other night and it just reminded me of it. And you just leave them and you just sit on a bench and mind your own business. And then when the dog returns to you, you go, oh, good boy, good girl, here's some food. And then immediately after that, you stand up and you kind of run away from the dog. And if they then follow you, you reward them. If they run off again, you just go and sit back down and wait. And then you start running off. And then all of a sudden, you've waited out. Because the problem is that sometimes if a dog runs off and then ignores you, the first thing you do is go and either clip them on the lead, and even worse than that, clip them on the lead and take them off the park. So what you've created is that really negative event of them coming back to you and all the fun stopping. So you've really become the fun police in that. So even though, yes, they've gone off and they've ignored you for half an hour, actually, if you can wait for that moment to reward. It's not my preferred method. I would much rather teach it and then work with a long line and the dog enjoy proximity and value that way. But it's worthwhile that if you ever get a situation, because while Bliss and Rebel are perfectly fine, there could be a stimulus out there that I haven't really thought about, or I haven't trained, or I haven't practiced, and yeah, all of a sudden they get too focused on that. And that's what I would do. I would just wait for them to come back. Wouldn't necessarily put them on the lead, or if I did put them on the lead, I would clip it off very quickly and let them go again. So again, not to give them that negative connotation to the lead. Okay, so now we've got a bit of recall going. So hopefully, is that making sense to people? If you can just let me know if that makes sense about proximity, returning, orientation, getting the dog returning to you naturally. That would be good. And then what we can do then is go into some more sort of standard, like the sit stays. Obviously that's if you've taught a sit stay. If the dog naturally follows you and you're out, I wouldn't necessarily be too worried about it. That's a nice problem to have, isn't it? You know, if the dog's following you around. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just pop up onto this platform. Right, Bliss, sit, wait. Hopefully she'll wait. She won't show me up. Just okay, good, makes sense. I'm just going to walk up here. Just let me just figure out where the camera can see, because I don't want to block it out too much. Okay, yes, I'm just going to come down to here. I'm going to use my whistle. Yes, good girl. Okay, so that's how we then just practice recall. And what I'm going to do this, I'm going to put it on the next one, a bit further away. Bliss, come here, Poppet. Wait. So we pop her a bit further away. We do the same again. Yes, good girl, good girl. So you can see now, and we just practice. So we practice here. Then you can take it out on the road with you. But if you're going to do it on a park and it's busy with lots of dogs, it's probably not the place to practice it at this stage, because we need to build in distractions. So I might in a bit let all the other dogs out, because they're having a break. They've all been run about this morning, so they're having a bit of a snooze. And I could do this with those dogs in that scenario, so that she can learn to do it while there is other things going on. But if you really want a fast recall, and we want to improve the reliability of a recall, then what we need to do is think about how we reward. So one of the things I would suggest that you do is get a notebook and then pick a spot exactly the same for each sort of recall. So Bliss, come pop it. So I'm just going to pop her over here, the furthest away. Hopefully I'm not breaking up, because it's line of sight, this microphone. So come here, Bliss. So I'm going to pop her onto the bridge. Sit. Wait. So I'm going to leave her there. So what I would do is I would get my phone and I would put the stopwatch on it. And I will get my whistle. Good girl. Okay, so that was about, what, 6 seconds? Could have timed it properly, but we're talking about 6 seconds. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat that. I won't repeat it full length, but I'll just do it again. Just so we bring her back to the same position. Sit. Okay, wait. So I'm going to come back. Good girl. Good girl. So that was about 7 seconds. Probably counting a little bit fast. But so I've had one at 6, one at 7. We'll just do one more. I would probably do about 10. And obviously, depending on how far you decide to take it, you know, you can have a different distance. Sit. Okay, wait. Come on. And I come back. Good girl. Good girl. So that was about 6 seconds. So I've had 2 at 6 seconds and 1 at 7 seconds. Now, you've heard me talk about variable reward ratio, which means that we ping pong it about so that she'll get a reward maybe after she returns 3 times successfully, after 5 times successfully, after 8 times successfully, after 1 time. So it all just goes all over the place. Okay, so she doesn't know whether the reward's coming or not. One of the downsides with that, in particular for criteria and really focusing and harnessing attention, is that it means that, as you've seen there, it's only a short distance. If you did it over a bigger distance, you might see more variable. We've got an average of about, well, let's say 6.5 seconds. She did 2 on 6 and 1 on 7. So you know that you're going to be rewarding some slower recalls, and she might take one that's 12 seconds, but you're going to pay her because you've decided that that one's the one she's going to get paid on. If you move on to differential reward ratio, we can say, right, her worst was 7 seconds, her best is 6 seconds, her average is 6.5. So what I can do is I can say, right, I'm only going to reward her for ones where she comes back under 6.5 seconds with the food reward. She's going to get a good girl for every time she comes back, but she's only going to get the food for 6.5 seconds. Other ways that you could do that is you could go good girl for 7 seconds, piece of kibble for 6.5 seconds, chicken, ham, smoked sausage for 5 seconds. Oh, thanks, Bliss. Sending my phone flying. So you can see that the value of reward, so obviously it depends on your individual dog, but the value of reward increases for the faster recalls. So if you've really understood your dog and you know what their motivation is, so I could say, right, I'm going to get the toy. So if I go Bliss and bring her back over here, come here, Bliss. And I'm just going to let her know that I've got the toy out. So sit. Okay, wait. So she knows I've got the toy. And then I come back into this position. Yes, good girl. Good girlie. So we got a 6 second, so she could have the toy. So it's possible that if she did 7, I could put the toy away. So she only gets the toy for the really successful completions. So that's differential reward ratio, and can help build a stronger criteria. So for example, you've probably seen the trick that I do, I say trick, rebel putting. She has a strong jaw. Good girl. What you got? Ready? Get it. Yes, good girl. Oh, get it, get it, get it. Whoa. Yes. Good girl. Out. Thank you. Sorry, what was I saying? So, with Rebel putting the recycling away. So, when I first started that, Rebel would get rewarded for picking the item up, jumping up on the bin, and whether it went in the bin or not, he would get rewarded. So he could learn that yes, he's supposed to jump up and drop it sort of around the bin area. But then once he's mastered that, then I'm looking for more perfection. So I'm starting to only reward, let's say, ones that hit the bin, bounce off. and ones that drop in the bin. Any that just miss the bin totally, no reward. He might still get a good boy because we're not trying to poison him and make it feel uncomfortable, because you've got to go with your own dog. Some dogs are susceptible to even the slightest negativity. So Bliss, you know, when I'm doing scent work with her, that when we're doing sort of blank searches where there isn't anything out there, you know, she might signal on an old container where there's the smallest amount of residual, and she can look at that and she thinks she's sort of disappointed. So often we just have to go, okay, there's nothing there, and we move off and we go away to build that sort of resilience in there. So this is all about honing criteria and trying to improve it over time. I suppose, you know, there's many ways you can sort of look at that when you think about test scores and revision and trying to improve from mocks to your real exams. You know, if you, I don't know, if you do anything that requires continuous sort of improvement and you're trying to attain. So I suppose one of the other analogies is you know, computer games. You know, we play computer games. What keeps us going is that, you know, we get it wrong, and to get to the next level and to get the reward of the next level or the boss or whatever it is that drives us for that value, even be it that some of that is dopamine release. You know, if there was no improvement and it didn't get tougher, how many of us would still continue to play computer games? Because that's the whole point. They become addicted because you've got to improve to go up to that next level, and that's what they work on, and that's all we're trying to do with the dog. So that realistically is how you build a rapid recall, and I've covered that, you know, sort of very quickly, but they're the stages to go through. I go through it in a little bit more detail and go through each step on my recallers course, which is, you know, in the shop, but it goes through that process. So, you know, that's the step by step. I think in there I've added in some extra sort of how to get the middle shaping going if you want to do middle. Obviously hand touches is another powerful one. It's not something that I've necessarily done too much with Bliss, so I haven't really worked on her hand touches, but touch, oh good girl. But it is something that you could do. Yes, good girl. But I don't think she would recall to it. Yes, good girl. So I could bring her over here, not too far away. Come here. Good girl. Wait. I'm just going to see whether she would. Yes, good girl. Oh, not too bad. So obviously that's something that I've got to work on there. That's not her preferred, not her best. So anyone got any questions regarding recalls, anything that I've not sort of covered off in terms of the process? But it's just build the value and proximity. So orientation games, proximity games, pay her for being, or pay your dog for being close to you. So if you are using the throw one piece of food away, 3 or 4 towards you, out on a field. So again, go at a quiet time, have a long lead, throw and if you're going to go onto a park or somewhere like that, you know, you might need some chunky bits of food. So chunky bits of food, throw one away. When they come to you, they get 5 with you. And then you can start practicing all those things at ever increasing busier times on the park, until pretty much you will get, you know, a dog that is like not really that interested in what's going off. But what you have to remember is if the dog's saliency for playing with other dogs is higher than the food, food's not going to cut it. So toy, so that's why you've seen with Bliss that I've used just like a hand touch or command or a fuss or the toy or food, so that she's very susceptible to reinforcement, which means I can use multiple things to reinforce. But it could be that I use playing with other dogs as the reward. It gets a little bit more sort of complex, but you can go to a park with a long line, you can call them to you. Obviously check out Disengagement, because this is about the dog seeing the other dog and they'll get focused on it. But when they return to you, then I'm going to take the dog to go and play with the other dog. So I'm now using the other dog as the key reward for my dog returning to me. If they like swimming, if they normally just go and run off and jump in the first bit of water, well, again, take the long line with you. When they see the water, when they return to you, then you take them to the water. So you're using the water as the reward for returning to you. Okay, so that's realistically where you've got to get to, and think about the reward mechanism. But if they have a saliency to one thing and it's more than what you're offering, they're not going to come back. So in that analogy, you know, if somebody is having a picnic and they've got, dare I say it, hot dog sausages, and your dog loves hot dog sausages, and you've got kibble, you've got to do a bit of work. And for that work, you've kind of got to go, well, there's hot dog sausages, come to me, get kibble, and I'll give you some hot dog sausages. Now, obviously in a park situation, you're not going to have hot dog sausages on you, but if you teach the concept of coming back to you when they have that smell of hot dog sausages, you do get a much more reliable recall. And then move away from the food lures quite quickly to just praise and affection. So the dog gets this real big boost of sort of dopamine, and then they get oxytocin, they get all these good hormones going through their brain. So they just get a massive reward. Bliss. Whatever you're doing, monkey. Good girl, Bliss. There you go. So they get a massive reward for just that return to you, and you can build that over time. And just remember, it's not a quick thing for recall, and you've got to build it in multiple environments. So, anybody got any questions? And I hope that's all made a bit of sense. Actually, stayed quite nice. I'll put a picture up of my Heath Robinson setup. it's quite funny, really. You know, I've got an umbrella tied to a bench, taped to my window above the camera, just in case. And then also just let me know as well if you've got anything else that you would like possibly us to do a live on, or do a bit more sort of in-depth on. Just let me know. Just excuse me. I'll probably be popping some more questions up about what we can do some lives on, but I hope that's helpful in how you build recall. But if you're trying to do it solely out on a park and there's lots of distractions, you're making it very difficult for yourself unless you have some element of management on there. So with a long line, where you can actually then start rewarding the dog for making a good decision of coming back to you, even though the long line's there, it doesn't matter because they've seen the stimulus and they make a decision. That's what disengagement's all about. So the two things go really hand in hand. Having a rapid recall on its own will not stop your dog from not disengaging, and you might have really good disengagement, but that doesn't necessarily always mean you're going to get a rapid recall. So you need to train each one and then bring them together. Disengagement does have an element of potentially recall because you are calling the dog and they are returning to you. So I'm just trying to make sure, I'm racking my brain now to make sure that I've covered over everything. Again, just have a listen out if you're around this area. Listen out to Aerowash Sound. We're on again tomorrow. Can't remember if it's our last one. We've got asked to do a couple more actually, so I'm not sure if we've got another 2 to do, or hello cheeky girl. And this girl always comes back because she's as you can see, look, it's just like eating out of a trough. Bliss. I know. Thank you. Come here. Good girl. And also look out, because both my dogs get a year older this month. So Rebel turns 8, and it's Bliss's birthday in 20 days. So on the 24th of June, Bliss turns 1. I know. God, can you believe that? Okay, let's just see. So Linda started making Max sit down when other dogs walk past. Really helps. He now doesn't bark at them half as much. Okay, no, absolutely. It's it gives you a strategy that means the dog can cope with it in a different way. And if he can focus on you and take food, that's even better, because we normally talk about when a dog's barking, although we don't particularly like it, it's much better than the dog cowering and hiding behind your legs, which we would prefer because we get embarrassed by the barking rather than the cowering behind your legs. We don't feel so embarrassed about that. But actually, cowering behind your legs is worse for the dog, whereas the barking is better for the dog. And again, on was it Tuesday? I was on a webinar with the holistic vet Nick Thompson. Really interesting webinar. I'm probably gonna have to watch it a few times because it's a bit over my head with a lot of it, but we were talking about the immune system, the autoimmune system, and sort of how gut health and the adrenal gland, how that links to the brain, the hypothalamus, and you know how all those things are sort of in tune. But it was really sort of fascinating to sort of figure out how stress plays into that, and that one of the analogies he gave, that when we were cavemen way back when, that stress was a good thing, because it would, lion would chase you, you'd run off, you'd either get eaten or the lion would disappear, and then the stress would go away. So the stress gave us the ability to increase our performance, because I think Dobson's law as well, but they have this curve where peak performance is arousal goes up, and then we can attain peak performance, but then there is a massive drop off at the end. So today, because we live in a stressful world, we have more prolonged stress, so that curve just carries on going down further and further and further until we then get into the depression status and things like that. So it's the same for dogs. They're having to deal with stress in a much longer way, which is why we see some of these issues. But the longer they stay cowering behind your legs, cortisol is increasing, whereas when they're barking, that is actually removing the cortisol from the system, and it's lowering how they feel about something. So when you look at it in context like that, you start to understand the dog system. Sorry, waffling on, gone way off topic as per usual. So that's recall. So hopefully that was useful. Hopefully that helps. I'm going to pop this up onto YouTube as well, and I'll leave it on the page as well. But if you do have any questions, you can just pop them in there and I'll come back to you and answer them. But I think it's about to chuck it down now. So I'm going to say goodbye and peg it inside, and I hope to see you very soon. So have a good afternoon. Take care. See you soon. Oh, it's raining. You don't mind though, do you, Bliss?